When I was hired at my job, they promised me a raise after 6 months. When the time came, they went back on their word and did not honor our agreement. So because of that, I managed all of their computer systems in a way so that only I could fix something, and then I left. Almost immediately, they came crawling back to me begging me for help to get their systems back online, and I agreed. But at my new consulting rate of $200 an hour or $400,000 a year, they had no choice but to accept. Here's how I did it. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. I work in software development using very in-demand and complex frameworks and tools. The average salary doing what I do in my area is around $110,000 a year for a relatively simple, low-level job. By this, I mean a position where the employee does not have major responsibilities, works as part of a much larger team, etc. I worked on site and then remotely as a contractor for 3 years for a company, hereafter named The Company, while I was at university. As a contractor, I was the only developer in the entire company of a few hundred people and was solely responsible for all systems, development, testing, etc. This includes databases, web servers, and much more. This seems like a lot. It was, but I had full control of my environment and autonomy. I worked on the software projects that I wanted to and felt would have the most impact. During that period of remote work, upper management was changed. After completing my schooling, I received an offer from the company for $70,000. I knew this was below what I should be making, but I also realized the following. Number one, I had full autonomy in my environment. Number two, I had some gaps in my skill set. And number three, by staying in this environment, I could fill those gaps and very easily prepare to transition to another higher paying job. So new management and I reached an agreement. I would accept a salary of $72,000, and then after 6 months time, we would meet to go over my salary and it would be increased by at least 15%. This was included in my offer letter, which both new management and I signed. Fast forward to 6 months later, I have now filled every gap in my skill set and expanded on it to increase my skill set even more. The 6-month marker rolls by and nothing happens. I send new management repeated meeting requests and they are ignored. 3 weeks into the 6th month, I go to HR and raise the issue. HR, Human Resources, turns ghost white and makes the meeting happen. That afternoon, new management comes into my office and offers me a 1% raise. That is correct, a 1% raise. I kept my cool though and reminded them that I was guaranteed at least 15% per our agreement. New management completely denied making this agreement and repeated their previous offer. I brought out my offer letter with both of our signatures on it and they started backpedaling. They said that they would talk and get back to me. I made it very clear that if I did not receive the agreed upon amount, we would have a problem. Fast forward to 2 weeks later, new management invites me into their offices. I am then offered a 6% raise. They tried to make excuses about budget restrictions, fairness to other employees, and whatever they could think of. I knew I had these options. Number one, quit. Number two, demand the 15%, possibly get it but severely damage my relationship with new management. Or number three, accept the 6% raise and maintain a strong positive relationship with new management, allowing me to blindside them later. The wheels in my mind spinning, I agreed to the 6% raise. At that moment, I decided what I would do. I would take the raise, use the remainder of my time there to look for another job, and leave. A few months passes though, and my plan expanded. I begin implementing the most cutting-edge technology, using the most modern frameworks, upgrading everything I could as aggressively as I could. Of course, this provided immense benefit to the company. That was the plan. I entrenched myself in every system in every way possible, increased the skill floor for my position as high as I could get it, and left. 4 months after I accepted the raise of 6%, I accepted an offer for a salary of $130,000 at another company. I put my 2 weeks notice in at the company and all hell broke loose. New management knew they had messed up and they were completely blindsided that I was unhappy with my position. Since I had graciously accepted the 6%, they thought they were off the hook. With me, I took all knowledge of almost every one of their systems. New management freaked out, so I did what any capitalist would do. I offered to come back as a remote contractor for $200 an hour. They had no choice but to accept. So over the last few months, I have been charging them him $200 an hour to do the exact same thing I was previously doing for significantly less. Now, instead of being out a few $1,000s a year due to my raise, they've been out of over $35,000 in a few months with no end in sight. I even hired one of my good friends to help fill the hours. The money is nice, but the look on new management faces when this played out was priceless. It was the sweetest revenge of my life. I want to add that I never did anything unprofessional towards my fellow employees or employer. I am not billing inflated hours, sabotaging, or anything like that. Everything I did and have done is honest work. So am I the jerk for putting the company in a position where they have no choice but to pay me $200 an hour because they wouldn't honor their original agreement? This is pretty wild. If you just do the math on this, he's obviously not doing 40 hours a week because he's a contractor here, but if he were to, that would be a salary of $8,000 a week. And if you extrapolate that across an entire year, assuming he only works 50 out of 52 weeks in the year, that is a salary of $400,000. 416 if you were to do every week, but at just 50 weeks, that's $400,000. So when you look at it that way, the meager 15% bump up that he wanted to get before he started working doesn't seem like very much at all. And the thing is, he didn't just try and come at them with their raise while he was already working there. That was a stipulation that he set up before they even started working together at all. So they can't even pretend like they were blindsided or that it's an unreasonable ask, because he probably wouldn't have started working there in the first place if they didn't agree to that raise after the 6-month period, of course. And he obviously made it very clear in the post that he's not sabotaging them. In fact, he's giving them the best, most efficient technology possible. So in the long term, when more people develop these specific skills, the company will probably be in a better position overall. It's just probably going to be a financially painful transition to even get there in the first place. It seems like people are split on this one. Some people think that what he did was nefarious and kind of shady to the company, but other people think it was totally justified. But let me know how you see this down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for faking food poisoning to teach my boyfriend a lesson? So my boyfriend, who's 28, and I am a 26-year-old female, both love to cook and are very good at it. We often make meals together and it's something we really bond over. However, he has a serious issue with cross-contamination that drives me insane. As a result, I feel like I have to constantly keep my eye on him to make sure that he is sanitizing things properly. It frustrates me that I feel like I have to watch him, and it frustrates him whenever I point out something he's done that seems unsanitary. Last Friday evening, we were making carnitas when I noticed that he was using the same knife and cutting board that he had used to chop raw pork to then chop up onions and radishes. I could literally see red splotches on the cutting board from where the meat had been sitting. I pointed out that whenever I need to cut both meat and produce, that I always do the produce first. That way I can use the same knife and cutting board without having to worry about cross-contamination. I then told him that we couldn't use the onions and radishes for this dish because I was not about to top my carnitas with them now that they were contaminated with raw pork. He flipped out and kept saying, "It's not like it's chicken." And I said, so what? It's still raw meat and there's still potential for foodborne illnesses. He wouldn't let it go. So finally, I was like, fine, I'll eat your tainted produce, which pissed him off further. He stormed off into our bedroom and refused to finish cooking with me. Without him knowing, I cut up new onions and radishes for garnishing, and we ate dinner separately. The next day, we were supposed to go to his parents' place as they were hosting a congratulatory dinner because my boyfriend recently got a new job. In the morning, I faked being ill and hung out in bed watching Netflix and reading most of the day. He seemed baffled by me being sick, and I said, I don't know, I did eat those onions and radishes that you were so pressed about. He looked irritated after that, but he seemed to believe that I was actually sick. When it came time to start getting ready to head out to his parents, I said I was still too ill and ended up staying at home. His mother messaged me later on explaining that it was extremely rude of me to have missed the dinner and that I should have taken some Pepto-Bismol or something so that I could be there to celebrate with them. I didn't even bother responding, and when my boyfriend returned home that night, I could tell he was bummed, but not mad, that I missed the dinner. Multiple people in his family are now pissed because they think that I am an unsupportive girlfriend. I do feel guilty about missing this dinner since it was important to him, but I was also at my wit's end, as I've tried to talk about the contamination thing with him nicely many times in the past, but he always gets pissed off about it and doesn't want to change his ways. Am I the jerk? Jumping into the future, there is an update. To start, many of you suggested that I purchase color-coded knives and cutting boards and that I have a serious discussion with him about the subject. These are things that I've done in the past, but I figured another try wouldn't hurt. I sat down with him and explained that although cross-contamination situation might not be a big deal to him, that it was to me, and that it would make me feel a lot better if he would please take my feelings into consideration. He promised me that he would be more careful, but then the next afternoon I saw him put a cutting board away without washing it after having chopped raw chicken on it. This obviously bothered me, but I decided not to say anything since we were fresh out of conflict. That same night I took him to a nice dinner as a way to make up for missing the one at his parents' house. We had a lovely time and things seemed to be on the mend for a few hours. But later that night, however, he developed terrible food poisoning. And to make matters worse, he was supposed to start his new job the next morning and ended up calling in sick. He blamed me for it because he thought the food at the restaurant was what made him ill. I told him that I didn't see how it could have been that because we shared dishes and I was feeling fine. The following day, his mother called and let us know that she had just taken his dad to the hospital. Apparently, he had been feeling super unwell and we all assumed it was related to a chronic disease that he's had for a few years now. He ended up needing multiple blood transfusions and tests found none other than E. coli in his urine. In the days following, my boyfriend continued to miss work and I discovered that about half the people that attend his celebration dinner that weekend before ended up sick. A bunch of other stuff happened with his mother trying to blame me for, quote, getting people sick, but I won't even bother going down that rabbit hole at the moment. If you hadn't already guessed, my boyfriend got fired from his job without having worked a single day there. I guess not showing up on your first week isn't a good look. On the bright side, he has shown a sudden and intense interest in kitchen hygiene. Apparently getting sick himself and having his dad end up in the hospital is what it took. It's been a couple of weeks since this all took place. A lot of you suggested that I break things off, and at this point, I think it may be headed in that direction. So was I the jerk? For somebody who cooks that much, how has he made it this far in life without getting seriously sick in that way? It seems like that would have happened a long time ago, but maybe if he ever got sick before it was just mild and he attributed it to something else, but this time was really just the time that broke the camel's back, especially when it came to his dad, who already has a pre-existing health condition and was so sick with this E. coli that he had to go to the hospital. What's pretty unbelievable is that after all of this, he still blames the OP, the girlfriend here, on him getting sick because of the restaurant that she took him to. I mean, even if it was a restaurant that got him sick, how would she be the one to blame for that? She doesn't personally vet every single restaurant. Nobody does. And the chances of that even being the case are so small, it doesn't even make sense to bring it up since they were sharing the same food. But all of that is after the fact. Going back to the original question of being a jerk or not for faking an illness, yes, I think that that is not right. You shouldn't pretend to be sick to teach someone a lesson, even if you are technically correct about the science of it, the hygiene of it, however you want to describe it. In a situation like this, or probably in most situations, all situations, pretending to be sick to get your point across is just wrong. You're just actually lying to that person to try and prove a point. If you sit down with them and you tell them this is serious to me, I don't want you to do this, and they still disregard it, then yeah, you should probably break it off before you have to get to the point where you're teaching them a lesson by pretending to be sick. But maybe you see this totally differently. Let me know how you guys interpret the situation down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for refusing to stop wearing my favorite pair of pants? My girlfriend, a 23-year-old female, and I'm 22, we keep fighting over a certain pair of pants that I own and I love to wear. I love to wear them almost anywhere. When we go grab something from the local grocery shop, or when we go out and walk our dog, or when we're just chilling outside. They are light and airy, but also long, so I'm never too warm or too cold in them. They are probably my favorite pair to wear, and thus I wear them very often. My girlfriend, on the other hand, thinks they were made by the devil himself. She hates orange and she hates the pattern on the pants, and she hates them as a whole because she believes they are ugly and inappropriate to wear. She also says I should get some proper pants to wear. Also, some of her friends trash talk the pants, as do my only male friends who care about fashion. Now, I do admit I have zero fashion sense, but I believe the pants do not look that awful for shopping in a supermarket or walking the dog. I also believe I'm not there to impress anyone and just want to feel good. I would like her to wear what I wear, but I do not want to dress well, so I am dressed for others, if that makes sense. I've offered to buy the same type of pants in a different color, but she dislikes the pants as a whole. I do not own many pants and would like to buy a nicer, more formal pair, but they're hard to come by. Money is not a problem, I think. Obviously, this is not a my husband didn't come to his own birth and I got mad type of post. None of us are jerks. We just are tired of talking about it and want to know who's in the right and who's in the wrong. So the girlfriend obviously really doesn't like these pants. She doesn't necessarily say that she's embarrassed when he wears them out with her, but that could also be part of the problem too, if she hates them that much. The situation is a little tricky because if there are no other pants that this guy loves as much as these specific pants pants that his girlfriend hates, what do you do there? Somebody's always going to be the loser in this situation. It sounds like he tried making this better by getting them in a different color, but that didn't solve the problem. So it sounds like the pants have got to go, or if not, there's going to be some problems. But let me know who you think is in the right and who is in the wrong here down below. Am I the jerk for naming my dog Brad? I've always thought it was funny when dogs have human names. Much more amusing to me than giving them obvious dog names like Spike or Jellybean or whatever. I never had an issue with Brad's name being what it is until recently. My sister got a new boyfriend, and I'm sure you can see where this is going. I don't think I have to say his name. Well, my sister came over the other day with him, and we met for the first time. Everything was all fine and good until he asked what my dog's name was. I laughed a little and said that his name was also Brad. He looked at me for a second and asked if I was joking or not. I told him no. His name actually is Brad. After that, his whole mood flipped, and the remainder of the visit just had an uncomfortable vibe. A while after they left, my sister called me and started berating me for, quote, disrespecting her boyfriend. Honestly, this seems like such a Brad thing for him to do, and I don't think I did anything wrong here, but maybe I'm wrong. Should I have lied about Brad's name so I didn't risk hurting his feelings? This is a situation that Brad the human probably thinks is a lot more serious than it actually is. The dog was already named Brad before human Brad was even in the picture. Maybe he was thinking that the dog was named Brad because of him, but that wouldn't even make any sense, which is probably why he assumed it was a joke. I think for a lot of people this wouldn't bother them at all, but some people probably would be offended by a situation like this if they started dating someone and then the dog was named after them, but it's just a coincidence. But let me know how you see this down below, and jerk or not a jerk for naming the dog Brad. Am I the jerk for damaging my ex's car and not paying for it? I broke up with my ex Ryan because I found him on Tinder talking to other women. I moved out of his house and I'm living in my own apartment. A few days ago, Ryan messaged me begging for me to come back. Ryan said he was sorry and wants to get back together. I told him I needed space. He asked if I was seeing anybody and I said no. Ryan told me, I'm not seeing anybody either. I'm still so in love with you. Yesterday, when I was walking back from the grocery store, I saw Ryan at the Wendy's parking lot with another woman. At first, I assumed she was a friend until they started kissing. For my own amusement, I stealthily walked up to the car and knocked on his window. Ryan was so shocked, he put his car in reverse and hit something. He drove off and later texted me that I needed to pay for the damages. I blocked him. For the record, it was a BMW and he's 52 years old. Am I the jerk for damaging my ex's car and not paying for it? The OP here did not damage the ex's car. All she did was knock on the window and he damaged the car himself. He's the one who tried to speed out of there even though he was already caught. He made the decision to put the car in reverse and slam on the gas and crash into somebody else. And it kind of sounds like it was a hit and run because the way she describes it is that he put his car in reverse, hit something, and drove off. Maybe it didn't happen in exactly that timing, but the way she wrote it made it sound like it was a hit and run. And this guy sounds snaky anyway. He's saying, I'm not seeing anybody either. I'm still so in love with you. And then he's in a Wendy's parking lot with his tongue in the mouth of another woman. In a situation like this, keep him blocked and move on. But what do you guys think? Jerk or not a jerk for supposedly damaging the ex's car? Am I the jerk for taking an item out of the cart that my son was pushing at Target while he was working there? Yesterday, I went to Target to buy some clothes for myself. There was one item that I was looking for, but I couldn't find. Since my 18-year-old son works there, I figured that it would be okay to look in one of the back rooms that was open. Incidentally, I ran into him while I was there. He was pushing a cart that happened to have the item that I was looking for, so I went ahead and grabbed it. But when he saw me, he yelled at me and demanded that I put it back and get out of the back room. I refused because he wasn't there to shop and these items are for people who shop there. He started to throw a giant tantrum, saying it was for some order. I asked him who it was for and he couldn't tell me. He ended up calling over a supervisor, and after some more arguing, I eventually got kicked out of the store because I wanted to buy an item. He is currently not willing to speak to me right now. So am I the jerk? The fact that people can't see that they are obviously the jerk in a situation like this is baffling. Even if this wasn't for an order that was already scheduled to go to some specific person, he could probably get in trouble for the perception that he's inviting family members into the back room of the store. But the fact that the mom here, the OP, is asking who the order is for, as if her son knows the person. It's probably just some name on a list that they have to deliver to. I feel bad for the son here because if the mom is that invasive while he's at work in the back room, I can't imagine how the mom is to him in all other aspects of his life. If you somehow see this as an NTJ, a not the jerk scenario, let me know why you think so down below. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories in this series, use the playlist at the top of the description. And next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search for Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever music platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your stream. It's free. Cream of the Stream. Either way, thanks a lot for listening. I'll see you guys next time.